Go ahead.
Welcome into Press Box Live, special edition of Press Box Live. There will be no there will be no Friday baseball show on Friday, so this is going to kind of be the content that replaces it. Very happy, along with Luke Jackson, to be able to chat with Dan Zielinski III of Baseball Prospect Journal. And Dan, this is your time of year. How exciting a draft class is this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, 6 months ago, everyone's always excited about the draft class because guys really haven't played their season leading up to it. This season, it started off pretty strong, but as the year went on, it seemed like some of the college guys, especially on the pitching side, just didn't develop like people expected. Once you get past like the top 10 or so guys, it really is a little bit of a drop off, and there's so much parity that the final half of that first round, who knows at this point? You're kind of just picking what flavor you like when it comes to these players. So it's not particularly the strongest draft, but there are some really good players at the top.
Want to remind everybody we're brought to you, as always, all our Zooms are brought to you by the Costa Sin. We'll talk more about them at the midway point of the show. And also the law office of Byron Warnken. Warnken Law, 443 results is the phone number if you've been injured in an accident around Baltimore or in the state of Maryland. And warnkenlaw.com is the website, WARNKEN.com. We're talking to Dan Zielinski. And Dan, obviously, we're going to talk a good bit about the Orioles and their draft history under Mike Elias and where they're heading this year. But I wanted to ask you at the outset, do you delineate the top three of Chalowski from UCLA, the shortstop, Grady Emerson, the high school shortstop, and Vaughn Lackey, the catcher at Georgia Tech? Are they the clear top three in this draft?
Yes, that's really the kind of industry consensus is Chalowski, Emerson, and Lackey are the top three guys and figure to go in those first three picks. There could be some wild cards and we'll see, but those guys really have stood out throughout this entire draft process. I personally also like Jacob Lombard a lot. He's a prep shortstop out of Florida, and I would kind of put him in that mix with those three guys. But from the industry consensus, those three guys that you mentioned are the ones that everyone's kind of zeroing in on as those top players.
Before I let Luke get a couple questions in, do you see it going one, two, three in that order? Chalowski, Emerson, Lackey, or do you think there could be some movement where somebody prizes or has Emerson above Chalowski?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the big question right now as we get closer to Saturday with the draft is how is that first pick going to shake out and what does that mean for the next couple of picks? Chalowski and Emerson seem to be kind of going back and forth right now. I really think at this point with the people I talk to, it sounds like the White Sox scouts really like Emerson a lot, whereas kind of the front office, GM, things like that really like Chalowski because he fits a little bit more into the organizational mold with where they're at currently as an organization and wanting to compete right now, where Emerson's going to take a little bit more time to develop. So those two guys are right there. And then I think the Rays will ultimately go one of those other guys, Chalowski or Emerson, who doesn't get selected first overall. They could throw a wrench in the system and maybe take a guy like a Tyler Bell from Kentucky as an underslot guy, but right now it really seems like those three guys, the Lackey, Emerson, Chalowski, are going to go in some order, one through three.
All right, Luke, I want you to get a couple in.
So I'm looking at Baseball Prospect Journal's latest mock draft, latest staff mock draft, I should say. And you, Dan, have the Orioles taking Tyler Bell, a shortstop from Kentucky, at number seven overall. Can you tell us a little bit about Tyler Bell and why that would be a fit for Baltimore?
And
Yeah,
can
that's a
I
great.
throw in what? So if the consensus is Tyler Bell, why did you move to Tyler Bell, Dan, or are you sticking with Drew Burris?
Yeah, right now, as I work through, my personal mock draft here, those are two names that are kind of lingering there at the Orioles spots. I think Jacob Lombard and Eric Booth, both two high school guys, are definitely in the mix. I don't see them getting to the Orioles, at least how I kind of envision the first half of that, top 10 going. So I think it's really going to come down to probably a college position player. As you both know, the Orioles love taking their college players. They've taken a college hitter first in six of the last seven drafts. And it seems like throughout this cycle, besides those two high school guys that I mentioned, they've kind of really focused on college players. Tyler Bell is really kind of anti kind of what the Orioles have taken in recent years, especially if you look at a guy
You
like
mean he
Vance.
might be really good?
That and he, has a little bit higher of a floor as well. He's a guy that's a switch hitting shortstop from Kentucky and has really good balance in terms of his tools and skill sets across the board. He's a guy that doesn't swing and miss a lot. He hits for some power, he hits for average. He's a respectable runner. He's not a speedster, but he definitely can make some plays and be a threat on the bases. And defensively, he's got the skill set to stick at shortstop long term as well. So really an exciting player that, like I said, has all those tools, really high floor guy that I think won't take a lot more time to develop and could, be on a fast track to the major leagues in a year or two if, everything goes well from the start.
So, from what I've read in terms of mock drafts around the internet, so they're always, it's good. Uh, Drew Burris is the guy who has been connected to the Orioles the most in these
Right.
mock drafts. He's an outfielder from Georgia Tech. He's what, 5'9", listed generously.
Probably. Yes.
Okay. But he's a strong kid. He played a lot of center field for Georgia Tech, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So
Left-handed
what's
bat or right? He's a right-handed bat, right?
Right-handed bat. Yeah.
Okay.
Right-handed power hitter.
Okay.
what kind of player is he, and why could he fit for Baltimore?
Yeah, obviously, like I mentioned, you have the college aspect, which we know the Orioles love, but he's also a guy that has just hit throughout his college career.
Mm.
He was a really well-regarded player coming out of high school, opted to go to Georgia Tech. He was a catcher in high school, and Georgia Tech has been a place that has really done a great job developing catching prospects throughout the last 10, 20 or so years. So went to college, ends up getting moved to the outfield, and he's really been known for his power bat. He's got above average to elite power. Like you said, 5'9", 185 pounds, really quick swing. Also athletic with a really strong arm. He's a guy I would really try in center field long term because he is athletic. He's shown an ability to chase down baseballs in center field and just run clean routes. But really, his calling card is his bat. He's a guy that's going to be a middle of the order hitter for a long time if he's able to figure everything out at the professional level, and someone that, could be a really exciting player in a few years at the major league level.
Do you
Go
worry
ahead,
at
Sam.
all about his stature for somebody that small, or is the power gonna power and the hit tool gonna play?
I think it's going to play. I think what's benefited him is over the last 10, 15 years, we've seen a lot of smaller guys have a lot of success and be able to hit for power. Um, he's just been able to do it consistently against high caliber pitching, whether that was in high school or college. So that could be a slight concern, but I think that's kind of a nitpick at this point. You've seen what he's able to do, and kind of his overall skill set that I think it's worth a top 10 pick with what he's able to bring to the field.
Luke, go ahead.
Okay. So there is a Maryland Terrapin connection in the top half of this first round. Chris Hakopian, who
Yeah.
spent his first 2 years in College Park, then transferred to Texas A&M. And it was an up and down year for him. He was pretty beat up from what I understand. How did he develop at Texas A&M, and what kind of player is he at this point of his development?
Yeah, he's an exciting player. I think, like you said, he's a little bit beat up, but he's a guy that could really realistically go in the top 15. He has a really above average hit tool that a lot of scouts really rave about. A guy that's got decent size at 6'1", 210, going to stick at second base long term. And I think what's really helped him over this last year is being in the SEC, being at an environment like Texas A&M where you're playing alongside some really elite players and also playing against some really elite pitching. And he really was able to have success overall at Texas A&M, being able to show a quality hit tool, not swing and miss too much, show some power. Defensively, he is what he is at second base. That's why he's going to be a second baseman. He's not a gold glove second baseman by any means, but he gets the job done. His calling card is that hit tool and his strike zone judgment. So I think him being able to have success in the SEC against these high caliber pitchers really helps solidify his draft stock as a first round pick.
And
So go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead, Luke. No, go ahead.
Okay. So in looking at the names of your mock draft below the Orioles, are there any names to you that stick out as very Orioles type of underslot targets? Like where would you not be surprised if the Orioles go with this player to cut a deal with them and save money for later in the draft?
Yeah, that's a good question. It really obviously partly depends on who goes before them. I don't see them going after a guy like Justin LeBron. I know we talked about him in the past. I just don't think the Orioles are going to make a play at that risky of a demographic. Derek Curiel, he's an outfielder from LSU. He's definitely someone I think that could be in the mix. He's got an above average hit tool, good size at 6'2", 192, hits from the left side, played at a program like LSU, and was a guy that coming out of high school was really considered a potential first round pick as well, but opted to go to LSU to get that experience and develop at the college level. So he's a guy that could find himself in the top 10, top 12 picks, and someone that should stick in center field long term. Might not be a huge power hitter at the professional level, but his hit tool, his plate discipline, bat to ball skills are really what scouts rave about, and his ability to use all parts of the field from a line drive standpoint also stand out. So I think Derek Curiel is a guy that the Orioles definitely have shown some interest in, also fits kind of their mold, and I think would be kind of a quality pick there for the Orioles and not offer as much risk as, some of these other guys like a Justin LeBron or one of these other college hitters or even pitchers that are kind of in that mix from, 7 to 15, 18 in the draft.
Dan,
So
you know how I like to focus on pitching, which is
Yeah.
something that Mike Elias hasn't shown a great desire to do with first round picks.
Yeah.
He hasn't made one pitcher a first round pick in his six drafts with the Orioles. Let me ask you this: is Jackson Flora now clearly the number one pitcher out there? And is there any shot at all that he would be there at seven?
Yeah. Yeah. Flora is definitely the clear cut number one guy. The guys behind him really didn't develop or had injuries that scouts just didn't anticipate happening. But he's a really exciting pitcher. I mean, he's 6'5", 205, above average to elite fastball that sits mid 90s, touches triple digits at times as well, and he mixes it in with a quality slider too. So he's a really exciting pitcher. I think a guy that has solidified himself as a clear-cut number one pitcher in this class, potential ace in the future. I think the chances are real slim that he makes it to the Orioles. The Giants have interest at 4, Pirates have interest in 5, and if he'd get to the Royals, it'd be an interesting conversation, especially depending who's on the board at that point, because they do like some of the prep guys on the hitter side there for the Royals. So I think the chances are slim Flores at 7 just because of what he's been able to do and what he brings to an organization.
If you could name two or three guys, because Mike Elias did pick a couple pitchers in the second round last year. He picked Joseph Zerwa and JT Quinn. Um, is there anybody you see that you would rate high enough for the Orioles to take with, is it pick 46?
Yeah, pick, yeah, that's a tough conversation. Obviously, pick 46 is definitely in play there. I think a Ben Blair would be a great pick for them. He's out of Liberty. I'm not sure if he gets there, but he's a guy that really has a well-balanced pitch mix, good size, was able to pitch really well overall at Liberty. Now you're taking a guy, though, from the mid-major ranks, but Ben Blair is someone I'm really excited about just because he brings a lot to the table with his fastball slider cutter combination. He's got good size. He throws a lot of strikes, has some deception to his delivery. So I think he could be in play there at 46. He'll definitely kind of go in that range of like late 30s to mid to late
Mid
40s, I think.
40s.
So he
Yeah.
could definitely be in play. I like him a lot. And then you have a bunch of high school guys also in the mix. And then you also have a guy like a Joey Volochico. He's a right-handed pitcher from Georgia. Big time fastball, big slider, and that's kind of what he's known for. His control and command sometimes lack a little bit, but his size is really impressive at 6'4", 225. Did really well this year at Georgia after starting his career at Stanford, and is someone that's going to need some development, some refinement, but the ingredients are there to be kind of an exciting starting pitcher down the line.
Before we take a break, and then when we come out of the break, Luke, you'll get a couple questions in. Um, if you had to look at the two guys they did draft last year, Zerwa and Quinn, how do you think they're doing? And are you pleasantly surprised that they're moving kind of quickly?
Yeah, overall, both guys were kind of pretty well regarded coming into last year's draft. JT Quinn obviously was a name that people were really familiar with over these last few years. So he's someone that's an exciting player. I think the Orioles did a nice job of finding guys that have those traits that you really can build on, and they've been able to come out and have success right away. It's tough when you see some of these prospects and they come out and they struggle right away, because then you start to worry about their confidence, things like that. But both those guys you mentioned were able to come out, throw strikes, and have success right away. So I think that's been a key for them in order to build some confidence and move quickly here.
Yeah, I'm excited to try and get to see Joseph Irwin the next week. We're going to take a timeout real quick. I want to tell you about Warnken Law. Their phone number is kind of their mantra, 443 results. If you've been injured in a car accident in Baltimore or the state of Maryland, results are what you want to go against the insurance companies. WarnkenLaw.com is the website. Check them out. I trust them. I'm using the Warnken Law Office for something I've been involved in, and I trust Byron Warnken and his team over there. So give them a call at 443 results. Also, brought to you always by the Costas Inn with two great locations. 4100 North Point Boulevard is the location where you can still get steamed crabs. They'll always have steamed crabs at the Costas Inn. 4100 North Point Boulevard, 410-477-1975 is the phone number. And now a second location in Timonium at the fairgrounds, just above the grandstand, right next to the OTB. Both are open every day of the week, 7 days a week for breakfast, for lunch and dinner. I'm sorry, no breakfast yet. Luke, go ahead. You got the first couple of questions for Dan.
So the last question I asked you, Dan, was about a potential underslot guy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask you about a potential overslot guy. So assuming that the top three picks go in some order, Cholowski, Emerson, Lackey. The next
yeah.
three in this mock draft are Jackson Flora, Jacob Lombard, and Eric Booth. Are any of those guys the type of talents that if they fall to seven, the Orioles just take them and don't worry about the price tag?
Definitely. I mean, they've shown a ton of interest in Eric Booth Jr. and also Jacob Lombard. Eric Booth Jr., I think, could maybe be more likely to get to seven than Lombard, but both definitely could be in play. Obviously, you need just one or two guys to kind of go above pick seven that were unexpected for at least one of them to get there. So Eric Booth Jr., he's an outfielder from Mississippi, a high school kid, good size at 6 foot tall, 207 pounds, really known for his elite speed, left-handed hitter who hits for average, shows some ability to hit for power as well, and is a guy that could stick in center field long term too. So he's a really exciting player that teams like the Royals and the Orioles have shown a lot of interest in. He's also getting some top five interest as well. And then Jacob Lombard is a guy I'm really high on. I think some people are sleeping on him. I know he still could be a top five pick, but I think he's, the complete player, really. He obviously has really good bloodlines with his dad and older brother having their professional career experience that they've had. But he's a guy that's going to hit for above average power. He can stick at shortstop long term and really play gold glove shortstop. at that position. So I really like both those guys. And I think if one's on the board, I wouldn't be surprised if the Orioles did go that route just because they've shown so much interest throughout this cycle in both those guys.
Go ahead,
Cool.
Luke.
No, I'm good,
Now,
Stan.
okay. If they had the chance to get Booth over Burris, do you like Booth better as a player? I know you have him going to the Orioles,
Yeah.
but that's partly because of what you see happening before the Orioles.
I think the upside is a lot greater with Booth. Obviously, it comes with a little bit more risk too, just because he's a high school guy and it's going to take more time for him to develop and mature than Burris has. But I think you're getting a potential star player in Eric Booth Jr. if everything clicks for him. Just because, like I said, extremely quick player who's going to steal a lot of bases, able to hit for power, has shown quality plate discipline at the high school level on the showcase circuit. He won the home run derby at the Perfect Game All American Classic last year. So, a lot to like with him. I think. If it was me between those two, I'd probably lean towards Eric Booth Jr., and it wouldn't shock me if the Orioles did the same.
My next question is getting back to the pitching last that Mike Elias did draft. Do you think that signals sort of an awakening in Mike that his plans of drafting super good talent and then having all this flexibility to trade these prospects that haven't materialized, that hey, I got to do something different? Do you think it's highly likely we get a couple high pick pitchers this year for the Orioles?
I think that could be possible. I don't think he's necessarily changed fully his draft philosophy. I still think he really prefers position players and
They say a leopard doesn't change his spots. You know,
exactly. Yeah, and I mean, it all comes part of it comes down to with the draft on trying to be able to spread that signing bonus pool allotment
yeah.
to as many picks as you can. So that plays into it. And I think the problem right now with this year's draft class, especially with where the Orioles are picking, the college pitching class just didn't develop like most anticipated. You got some guys like a Cam Flukie, a Liam Peterson, kind of in that mix that could maybe go in the teens, but they're not top 10 picks either. So to take them in the first round would be a little bit more risky than just going to get that position player that has some upside, maybe, is a college guy too that's performed at an elite level. So I think, obviously the Orioles are more likely to take a position player early, but again, there's some good pitching to be had in that second round. So it wouldn't shock me if they take one of those guys I mentioned or someone along those lines, especially on the college side. I think they're more likely to take a college pitcher than a high school pitcher early, just with their philosophy and how they've drafted in recent years.
Do you like any other talent? We clearly know that Honeycutt and Bradfield, while Bradfield might end up being serviceable because of his speed and glove and play in the majors. Do you like some of the other players they have now coming up? Ike Irish, Wihawa, Loy, Nate George, and we know that George has some type of health issue. But what do you think the system looks like? I know there's not much at the top, but Chesapeake and and Frederick.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, there's a lot of their better prospects are at least a couple years away, most likely.
Yeah.
Maybe those college guys could get fast tracked. But I'm a guy that was a really big believer in Ike Irish last year. I think he's a quality hitter. I know the results haven't always been there over this last year and a half, but I really like what he brings to the table with his power potential. And in college, he did show quality plate discipline. I know, again, that's been a little shaky at times this season, but I still like Ike Irish. I think he could be a quality hitter. After that, the biggest problem with them is they've swung and missed on a lot of guys early on in the draft, which never helps. Um, so we'll see. I do like Jerron Watts Brown. He's an
I mean,
intriguing pitcher.
you don't think that's a philosophy they have to miss on the first round, do you? And
No, it comes down to player development. I mean,
yeah,
obviously part of it's scouting, but it's not like, they've t like, the guys they've taken early on were guys that no one else wanted either. So I think
Yeah.
part of it's luck, part of it's player development, and part of it's scouting. It's a whole combination of that. But I think right now with year after year, them being, you know, their inability to develop talent, I think you really have to look at the player development system, and they probably should do some overhauling there because even the guys that have come up over the last couple of years, they've been decent players, but I don't know. Gunnar Henderson's your best player, but like you don't really have another guaranteed all-star type player. I mean, Jackson Holiday hasn't produced like anyone envisioned. Heston Kjerstad's not what people expected. He had some other, obviously issues throughout
Yeah.
his development, but really, I just think it comes down to player development at this point. You're not developing guys, and you're never going to hit 100%, but you're struggling to even hit 300 at this point. So.
Luke, you got one more for Dan
One
before
more
we let
quick
him
one.
go?
How has the development of NIL impacted the what number of high schoolers end up actually signing to the team that drafts them? Yeah,
Yeah, Yeah, that's a great question. We haven't seen a crazy amount of guys pull their names out of the draft. It does give them more leverage when it comes to negotiating contracts and getting that signing bonus dollars that you want. But we have seen over the last few years some guys who are like those fringe second, third round picks end up going to college instead of getting drafted more than we had in the past, just because you get to play at a college, at a premier program, develop in that atmosphere, make NIL money, and then hopefully get drafted maybe in the first, second round. And statistics show still that guys who play in college and get drafted out of college end up having a higher likelihood of making it to the major league level. So there is some incentive there too to cashing in on NIL and then playing for 2, 3 years at the college level and getting to experience that, especially if you're at one of those programs in the SEC.
If you want to follow Dan during the draft, it's at Dan Zielinski, Zielinski 3, at what is it, X? That's at X.
It's X, yeah.
All right. And Dan, if somebody wants to look at the website, it's baseballprospectjournal.com.
Correct. And every year I interview a bunch of the top players in the class. This year, I interviewed just under 40 of the top players. So you can find all those stories as well as our final mock draft here before the draft kicks off Saturday afternoon.
All right, Dan Zielinski, we're excited. Luke and I, our eyes are on the TV as the Orioles just went ahead of the Cubs in the bottom of the eighth inning. Not to time this, but we really appreciate your time. I hope we got you out in time and have a good couple days coming up.
Thanks, guys. Always enjoy speaking with you. Talk
All
soon.
right, there he is, Dan Zielinski III. For Luke Jackson and Dan Zielinski, I'm Stan the Fan Charles. We'll see you down the road real soon. Luke and Ross and I will be on Monday. Talk to you then.